Colleagues, at 4th of July picnics and parades, it is likely that complicated health care policy debates were not exactly a central topic of conversation. I'm pretty sure that's the way the Trump administration wanted it to be. Today, lawyers representing the Trump administration and a number of Republican governors are attempting to have the Affordable Care Act ripped up and thrown out by a federal court. They were unable to do that in the Congress, so now they have headed off to try to get it done in the courts. The case is happening in the Fifth Circuit in Louisiana, and it is not some theoretical exercise. This is an immediate threat to the health care of millions and millions of Americans. And I want to be clear at the outset of these remarks what the bottom line is. The bottom line is eliminating protections for pre-existing conditions is now the official position of the Republican Party. That's the centerpiece of what this court case attacks. The ironclad, airtight guarantee at the heart of the Affordable Care Act that insurance companies cannot discriminate against those with a pre-existing condition. And the fact is the Republican Party wants that eliminated. And the fact is this attack on Americans' health care goes way beyond pre-existing conditions. What about prescription drug costs? Prescription drugs are outrageously expensive right now, and the problem is getting worse under the Trump administration. Prices are up more than 10% just in the past 6 months. Americans are forced to make those life-threatening choices where they really have to balance their food bill against their medicine bill, medicine against other necessities like shelter. In effect, Americans self-ration because their prescriptions just cost too much. If this lawsuit succeeds, prescription drug costs are going to skyrocket even higher. The Affordable Care Act is thrown out. That is the end of the requirement that health insurance companies have to cover prescription drugs. Patients will be forced into junk insurance plans that don't cover the care they actually need. Millions of people of limited means would be kicked off their Medicaid coverage. Millions of seniors would face higher drug costs. The bottom line, if this case is successful, it will launch a forced march back to the days of yesteryear when health care was for the healthy and the wealthy. And the reason I say that is that's the way it used to be. If you had a pre-existing condition in the past, you were just out of luck unless you had an enormous amount of money. The only people who really could benefit were people who were healthy and people who were wealthy, and the Affordable Care Act changed that. More than 100 million people got a lifeline protection against discrimination if they had a pre-existing condition. The biggest winners, if the lawsuit succeeds, are going to be the largest of the insurance companies and the drug manufacturers. They would get the power they need to once again walk all over the American people. So here's the kicker. There is no replacement plan if the Affordable Care Act is wiped out. The president keeps saying he's got a big, beautiful health care plan. And we always get the sense it reminds you of the movie house in the old days where it would say, coming soon, movies coming soon. But it never actually gets there. There's never a grand unveiling. And that's because there isn't a backup plan. This is just an ideological crusade to make winners out of the most powerful corporations and losers out of millions of working Americans. Democrats in this chamber have proposals ready to go to take a better path, a better approach, and to protect the health care of our people. Blocking Trump's lawyers from using taxpayer dollars to destroy the Affordable Care Act. Banning junk insurance, which isn't worth much more than the paper it's written on. And standing foursquare behind protecting people with a pre-existing condition. That's what the Senate ought to be working on, so that the Trump administration can't bring on a health care nightmare for millions and millions of Americans.